Hey, welcome to Level Pixel Level. A couple of months ago, CAD Knowledge asked me how to rig an Oldham coupling in Blender. Today, I'd like to just take you through my process for how I figured out how to rig this. Less of a tutorial and more of just how I troubleshoot a problem like this in Blender. All the files I use will be available for you to download and check out, and I'll save periodically as I go along. So the first thing I usually do with a challenge like this is just to build something similar to what I want to make with the geometry. I could have used just bones for this, but I find it more interesting to actually have some sort of simple geometry to work with, just so I can see the mechanics moving around. So the next thing I did was I just added a simple rig, and I added 3 joints for each of the pieces here. So I just did my cursor to selection, and I just snapped this to it. I duplicated this over, duplicated a couple more, and I just snapped cursor to the other pieces here too. Next, I just pointed the joints sort of down the x-axis, just so they were pointing along the pieces that I was going to be rotating. I just pointed the one, then I selected the other 2, and I just went to transform and align bones, or Control-Alt-A is the hotkey for that. Usually when I'm working on stuff like this too, I like to just put the armature in front, just so I can see it in shaded mode as well. So I quickly just parented all these up to the rig with a bone parent, and now I have them all just moving around. So the first thing I tried was just a copy rotation from this joint to the other 2. And I just select on that one first and shift click on the other one, do Shift-Control-C. I can do a copy rotation with the target here, already submitted for me. I can do the same thing for this one here. I just wanted to see it moving, so I actually added some animation to this main bone, and it would rotate all 3. And it's pretty simple animation. I just made sure I started on frame 0. I just went with the x-axis, but I just want to fix my bone rotational rolls first, so I just set that to XYZ Euler. So I just added a couple keys to the Y rotation, just every 10 frames. I think I went 90 degrees, just on this first test, just to see what it would do. Originally I had made this 40 frames. I actually decided to go back and make this 80 frames long, just so it would be a little bit slower so I could actually see what was going on. The other thing is I wanted to make this a linear key. Right now it's got these Beziers on it, and that's just Blender's default. I just selected everything in the graph editor, just hit T, and flipped it to linear. So now I have this nice consistent rotation. My original thought was to grab this centerpiece here and use a driver to actually drive the Z location and the X location as this rotated. So as this rotated down to here, I was going to take the rotational value, I flip it to local, and actually just drive that X rotation down to there. It would maintain that piece right there. So that would be like an oscillating driver that would move that back and forth as the rotation happened. I looked up some of the math for this and started just digging around into some of the physical properties of this as well, and just some of the formulas associated with it. The more I read up on this, the deeper I was kind of getting into the equations behind it. And I actually decided to take a step back and take a different approach and actually animate it, just to see what it was actually doing in space as it moved, just so I could actually visualize it before I dug too deep into actually adding drivers. And again, once I had that animated, I just selected on the joint and just went to the graph editor, and I had these sort of Bezier curves going on here, so I just put that to linear as well, just so I had a nice consistent animation to move along with that. Then I just went to front view and I just watched it. And I noticed one thing pretty quick. I was getting a little bit offset here, and I was losing the piece here, so I added a little bit more animation just to clean that up even more. So I'm animating about every 5 frames now, just to see what that's actually going to do. All right, so I had a bit more detail, and one thing that I'm noticing right away is that this is looking all right here, and I could almost ship this with an action to an animator and this would be done. But if they want to do anything a bit more dynamic, this could actually break. And again, this was just to visualize it. One thing I noticed right away though, is that if I watch it in right view, it's actually kind of following a circle. And just to kind of prove that, I actually went to the armature tab and went to motion paths. I input my range, I made sure I had that joint selected, and I just clicked calculate. And it's pretty much a circle just moving around there, which makes this a lot easier than actually adding a driver. So I just need to sort of round that out. So next thing I tried to do is actually add a circle. So I actually deleted all this animation. I cleared the motion path, and I just put my cursor at center and added a curve and a circle. I just flipped to edit mode and just rotated this by 90 degrees on the Y. And I wanted to move right down at the cursor. So even if I lift this up, what I usually do is select the place I want the pivot to be at in edit mode, snap my cursor there, flip back to object mode, and do object set origin to 3D cursor. And I have a hotkey for that, Shift-Control-Alt-C. And if I zero this out, it's going to fall right there. The circle's too big right now. It's about 2 times too big, so I just put the scale at 0.5 and then just applied the scale. So now I grabbed my joint in here and I went to the constraints and I added a follow path constraint, and I looked at the Bezier circle. Now, by default, it's going over to here first without even doing anything, just by turning that on. It's because every Bezier has a starting point. So to fix this, I'm actually going to use an add-on called Curve Tools, and I'll just enable that here in the Preferences. And then I get this new panel here called Edit. I'm going to come down to Utilities, go to Edit Mode, and just set first point. Just a quick way you can reset the first point of a Bezier curve. All right, so I'll go back to object mode, click on my rig, and just go back to pose mode. Now I have this on a follow path, and it's going to go around that circle. So I'm going to get that motion. Then I had to figure out how to connect it to my rotation here. So I wanted to connect it to the Y rotation. So I thought a driver would be best for this, and I just right-click on the Y channel here and go to Copy as New Driver. And then on the follow path, the offset factor, I just paste it as driver. And this was just a test out to see what would happen. And initially, it's moving way too fast. So I want to look at what's actually happening on the driver. So I just bring out this driver panel here, and I can just look at the numbers that are being input. Okay, so I'm getting a value of 5.26 when my original bone is at about 302. I'm just going to see what it's at 360 degrees. I'm getting a value of 6.283, and that's a radian value. It's taking the degrees, it's giving me a radian output of that instead of a degree output. I'm going to check it out at 180 as well, and that's giving me 3.142, which is very close to pi. So I thought about something here. I'm just going to flip to scripted expression, and under the Euler value, I'm just going to divide that by pi. And now it's made one complete rotation. It's back at its initial location here. So that seemed to work great. I have a value of 1, and that's at 180 there. I'm just going to play through, but it looks like it's going in the wrong direction. So one quick way to fix this would be to just put a negative value in front of my rotation Euler in my actual driver. But I want to show you why it's going in the negative direction. I'm just going to click on my circle, and I'm going to go to edit mode, and I'm going to click on this drop down here, and under curve edit mode handles, I'm just going to turn them on. So you can see that the direction that my handle of my curve is actually going in. If I flip the direction of this, when I'm going from 0 to 1 in that dial, it's going to flip. So I can come to segments and just do switch direction. Again, it's still not lining up, and this is actually because when you switch direction, it also changes the set first point option of the curve. So if I just click on this top one again and click set first point, now it's working. There you have it. There's the Oldham coupling working in Blender. It's a pretty simple setup when you kind of build those pieces, and what's nice about this is it's all being built from one rotation. So one rotational drive is going to push all three of these pieces. And this can be sped up and slowed down to get different values on the rotation. So this worked really well, and I wouldn't have found this solution if I didn't animate it first. If I had gone the driver route and trying to do the math behind it, I think I would have gone into a science project pretty quick. The idea here is just to get something functional right away. Like if I had to ship this to a client, this is ready now. This can go on, and I can build more on top of this. So that's how I would go about building this in Blender. I'm going to do another video where I build this into a stable rig, and I'll show you what I mean. If I kind of grab these pieces and just try to move them in space, I'm going to get all this double transformation happening. So this works right now, but it only works at the origin. Even in object mode, I can sort of move it around. But as soon as I rotate this and try to hit play, you see that it's already broken. So in another video, I'm going to turn this into a stable rig. Anyway, head over to my Patreon if you want to watch that video right now. That part 2 is up there as early access. And for my level 2 and level 3 tier patrons, I've actually released a exclusive video that goes over how I surfaced, lit, rendered, and comped the sort of sci-fi one that I wanted to make that was a little bit cooler. And I've shared all the work files with them as well, where they can kind of check it out and play around with that setup. It's the exact same functionality as this one here. I've just made it look a little bit cooler with some more interesting geometry and lighting. Big thanks to them for supporting me and supporting this video. It's because of them that I can keep making these videos. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below, or if there are any joints that you're wondering how you would build in Blender. Talk to you next time. Bye-bye.